Hello, this is Kayak Mods Part 2. This is intended for those who are looking to make their first set of DIY mods to their kayak. These are simple and relatively inexpensive. I will be comparing each product's cost to a comparable and popular product on the market. Since these mods are not my idea but instead a collaboration of different methods I've seen on YouTube, I'll be adjusting them to my wants and needs. Last, I will not factor in costs of tools and materials that I 1. Already own, or 2. Had to buy, because I'm a firm believer that tools are an investment and that's priceless. So here we go. On this video, we are going to build a rod holder as well as the rail mount, or track mount. But first, let's find a competitor to find the budget we want to stay under. I found this Kayak rod holder for $29.95 on Amazon. Now you can find much cheaper rod holders, but most of the cheap ones need to be mounted onto the kayak with screws. This Kayak rod holder is a little more similar to the DIY one we're about to make because it mounts onto the track that came with the kayak. So $30 is our budget. Let's see the materials we need. 1.5 inch PVC Y joint, 1.5 inch trap adapter with male threads, a 1.5 PVC cap with threads, and a 1/4 inch by 2 1/4 inch brass toilet bolt set. I got all of this at Home Depot for $9.63. The following items are tools and materials that I already own and won't be adding it to the cost of this project. PVC primer and cement, a file, epoxy, saran wrap, painter's tape, a hacksaw, sandpaper, 1/2 inch and 1/4 inch drill bit, a rotary tool, protective equipment, a drill, and some spray paint. I first orient the Y joint this way so the straight pipe holds the rod and the adapter goes on its base. I apply the primer to the inside of the base and the adapter. And I do the same with the cement to join the two pieces together. I hold up my rod against the Y joint to make some rough markings of where I want to make cuts. Using painter's tape, I create an outline for my cuts. With the saw, I make 2 vertical cuts on the top, as well as 2 on the lip of the joint. Here I have my rotary tool and some cutting disc. Make sure you use iPro because these discs can break off pretty easily. And I make the 2 cuts along the sides of the joint. Use something like a chisel to pry the cut out if necessary. Remove the tape and take a file to take off the rough edges of the cuts. While I'm at it, I'm going to take off these raised portions of the pipe in hopes that it'll look less like a homemade rod holder out of PVC pipe. And this is taking way too long, so it's not necessary, but I'm going to use my orbital sander to speed things up a bit. Here I have some leftover sandpaper from a wood project, and I'm going to hit it with some 100 grit and then later some 150. This will create an abrasive surface for the paint to stick onto. Also, it doesn't scratch off as easily, as well as prevent paint from running. And I'm going to do the same for the cap. Once done sanding, wipe off all the dust with a wet paper towel. Take the toilet bolt, and you're going to want to make sure it fits your kayak track. The head should be small enough to easily slide into the track, but big enough to where it will not rotate freely or pull out of your track. Drill a hole through the cap with a 1/4 inch drill bit. You can double check to make sure it's the right size by measuring it to the bolt itself. With the 1/2 inch bit, you'll make a seat for the nut, and make sure you don't drill all the way through. The nut should fit snug. Grab some Saran wrap and wrap the bolt. The Saran wrap will prevent the epoxy in the next step from getting into the threads of the bolt and the nut. Thread the nut on and pull the nut into its seat. Fill the cap with epoxy so as to submerge about half of the nut. And then mix with a toothpick. Now we're going to want to let this dry while keeping the epoxy level and not interfering with the bolt. So I'm going to just rest it on the Y-joint, like so. Now that it's dry, remove the bolt and the Saran wrap, and you can see that the nut is held in place by the dried epoxy. Grab your spray paint of choice. I'm using flat black. Insert something to cover the epoxy and nut from the paint. Add a couple of coats of paint to the rod holder and mount. And be sure to let it completely dry between coats. This is totally unnecessary, but I'm going to use this heat gun just to speed up the process. It might just be me, but I also feel like it bonds a little better to the PVC anyway. And we are done. All that's left is installation. Add the washer before putting the bolt into the nut. When putting onto the track, slide the head of the bolt in while keeping the washer on top of the rail. The bolt and nut allows the mount to move freely on the track, as well as secure itself by tightening down the mount. Screw the holder into the mount, and the beauty is that you can interchange whatever you want into the mount as long as it has the adapter, and you are now done. With that said, the Yak Attack rod holder went for $29.95 on Amazon, and we spent a total of $9.63. That's $20.32 under budget. Thank you so much for watching this DIY kayak mod. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe.